I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar. I miss you every single day. I wait until we start going. I hate the way I stray into every days. I love the way
I think we can begin. So, Kieran, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me, David.
Thanks for coming in super early. You've got your coffee there.
I do.
Medium flat white. We're good to go.
Perfect.
Hey, now, Kieran, you're from Photosynthesis, which is a little studio that someone has set up. We're about to find out who. And, photography studio in Christchurch that people can rent out. There's a whole bunch of different kind of membership schemes that I saw, commercial, non-commercial, and sort of, what's the other one? You can get funding for it and stuff.
That's right. So we've got a few different ways that people can use the space. So really the objective of Photosynthesis is to have an accessible photo studio for people to use.
Yeah.
So right back in 2022, we founded it. It was myself, my former fiancé, Federico, and the other trustee that we started it with was Andrew Turner, who used to be the deputy mayor. And really, the objective was to make it a non-profit so that all the money that was coming in was going straight into the arts. So we thought the non-profit sort of model was the best way to have it sort of feeding through, and we could get support from funders. So really the way that we've structured our prices is so that people can use the gear and you can sort of pay what you can. So we've got standard rates that any user can just come and pay and use the space. And then the way that we structure everything from there, if you're using it regularly, we can offer some subscriptions and you can pay a little bit less to come in. Whereas the main thing we're trying to do is make it so if you're making art, which isn't always easy, it's affordable to do it. So we're able to take the sort of revenue from people renting it at the standard rate and push it into making it cheaper for people to use it for everything else.
So going back to the beginning, in 2022, you say?
Yeah.
Yep. Not long ago.
Not long ago.
What did you do previously? I noticed that you've got a doctor. You're a doctor, Kieran, and
that's right.
this isn't news to you, but you're the first doctor on our podcast. And
great news.
And so, tell us, what are you a doctor in? You're doing postdoctoral studies as well.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Canterbury. Finished my doctorate. I think it was probably mid-22 as well. Did the whole defence and everything last year. It's not a medical doctorate, it is in structural earthquake engineering.
Oh, right.
So something quite different to photography.
Yeah.
And that's still my main job.
Yeah.
Everything at Photosynthesis is fully voluntary,
right.
At the moment at least. It'd be nice if it wasn't, but it is at the moment. That's how I spend my day. So my research has mostly looked at what happens inside of buildings during earthquakes to all the things that aren't part of the structure. So how does the ground shake and transfer that motion into the building?
Yeah.
And then the things attached to the building, how do they respond? So how do we make sure that the lights above us, for example, don't fall down in an earthquake?
Yeah.
How strong do we need to make sure those fixings are?
Right.
So my research looked at how do you calculate that?
Yeah.
Came up with a way to do it and came up with a whole bunch of different things that can happen.
Cool.
Tried to cover that. And now it's out for consultation at the moment, but it probably will make it into the design standards. So,
right, okay.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Oh, excellent. So has that been an area that has been sort of neglected or overlooked in the past? Like we're like, the building's sweet, but meanwhile we've got these heavy items that are sort of being flung around the place.
Absolutely. So the non-structural elements in a building probably make up about 80% of the cost of a building.
Right.
When you build it to start off with, really a lot of buildings in Christchurch after the earthquakes, obviously, were quite extensively damaged. But a lot of the losses were driven by non-structural elements getting damaged, and sometimes even repairable structures were torn down because the non-structural elements were so badly damaged. So a long time in the industry has been focusing on addressing life safety, so making sure the building doesn't collapse. But by Christchurch, sort of 2010, 2011, that was pretty well addressed. Actually, the University of Canterbury, where I work, had come up with a concept called capacity design. So imagine you've got a chain, and you pull and pull and pull. The one part of the chain that's going to snap first is going to be the weakest link. So things could snap in one of two ways. They could either suddenly snap, or they could slowly bend and snap. So we could have like a ductile failure or a sudden brittle failure.
Yep.
So we want that slow sort of build-up of damage. But it doesn't matter what the other links of the chain are like. They could be brittle, as long as that weakest one is ductile. So that's really what we're trying to do in buildings.
Yep.
We're trying to make sure that when it's getting damaged in strong earthquakes, we're getting this ductile failure.
Yep.
So we make sure that, for example, all the columns don't fail, and you get the soft story collapse where it just pancakes down. That was sort of the historic background. Yeah. And as we came through that, we've looked more and more at non-structural elements, and it's just grown exponentially. The research in this field is just absolutely exploding. So great to be part of that. I looked at a whole bunch of buildings throughout the world that had little sensors throughout them.
Oh yeah.
So there's been a bunch of earthquakes, of course. And we can use what was happening at the ground and our prediction model and guess what happened on the floors, and then check to see if that's what actually happened. And
I see.
It mostly was. So that was great news. Yeah,
that's fascinating. I love the logical, rational kind of almost the philosophical thing about the chains and the weakest one. It's kind of like that, you're only strong as your weakest link type of thing or whatever in a team situation, but also just in a almost in a logical, rational, argumentative kind of way. It's just like, that makes sense, right? Yeah. That's logic for you. Hey, we probably shouldn't talk about earthquakes too long.
That's true.
But that's fascinating. So let's go back to photosynthesis. So that came about through through Federico,
yeah.
Federico, right. And your sort of common, or his love for photography.
Yeah, so Federico is a professional photographer.
Yep.
So we met back in 2016, and he moved to Christchurch from Italy, and we met, and he moved in with me a week later. Right. So yeah, a bit of a whirlwind romance.
Yep.
And in 2021, he's had really poor health at times.
Yeah.
So at one point he was so unwell he couldn't even leave the house. He was just completely unwell. So he's had quite a bit of trouble with his mental health as well, and of course being stuck inside didn't help. So he was really kind of isolated from the world, and it was pretty tough to see because he's a pretty extroverted guy, unlike me. Which is not great if you're the director of photosynthesis, to be a bit introverted, but hey, we do what we do when we're passionate, right? Yeah, anyway, he sort of discovered film photography using analog cameras, and when he had sort of an opportunity, a better day, he'd go out and take photos of people, and he started, not really consciously at first, but started developing a body of work, looking at masculine queer men, so gay, bisexual, trans, and it really grew into something that I think it healed him, having this really important art project that he was working on, and developing it into this beautiful thing. So it was amazing to see the power of photography for him to help him come out, and as he got better and better. The next year, in sort of mid-2022, we ran a boosted campaign through the Arts Foundation.
Yep.
So it's a crowdfunder and it's all or nothing. You set a goal and you either reach it or you return all of the donations. So that was...
and what was your target, Kieran?
It was $22,500.
Yeah.
So that was for Photosynthesis, the studio.
Yep.
And also to fund a book of the body of work that Federico's been working on.
Oh, okay,
So,
cool.
we managed to reach it, which was an incredible thing. We had 1 month to raise the money, so it was all go. And that, I guess, is really where Photosynthesis started. Through the development of Federico's body of work, getting that crowdfunding, and we'd used other people's spaces to do some studio work in the past. But it wasn't quite right bringing models and sitters into the space. It didn't sort of have the right sort of professional feel. You're always limited when you're in someone else's space as well, to make it sort of feel your own. So that's something we really tried to strive for with Photosynthesis, to make it small and intimate enough, but big and well equipped.
Because the studio is 44 square metres, I noticed.
That's
so
right.
It was kind of approximately 8 by 4, but 8 by 5. But Pilgrim. How big's Pilgrim, Milton? Like not big, 39, 40, something.
I'm not sure, man.
Yeah. So it's a small, intimate little setting, and you guys provide all the equipment.
That's right. Yeah.
Apart from, I was going through your list, and I noticed you missed out cameras.
That's right. We actually don't have any cameras, which is an enormous challenge for us, if I'm honest. But
there's presumably there's a pretty logical reason for that.
It's mostly because we're new and we can't afford them. But we are working on it. One of our main ways to get equipment has been through funding. So we've been reaching out to the proceeds from gaming machines. To organisations like the Christchurch City Council. So we've been really fortunate. We probably got about $50,000 of grant funding last year, and that gave us a brand new projector, so something that's really high quality, so that when we have events to show people's work, it's being shown as it needs to be. And definitely some of that gear, some of the lighting equipment, and some of the mounts and things like that. But it's pretty hard to ask for a big amount of money to get a decent camera. So a lot of the users of the space have brought their own camera, but it's definitely something we're working on.
Oh, well, I thought it was an intentional decision, and I kind of assumed that maybe there was something in it, like there was sort of a reason behind it, other than just purely the money. And
not really.
No, but cameras, now that they have been joined to telephones and stuff, phones.
That's true. Yeah.
They're everywhere. It's crazy.
Particularly for video making.
Yep.
It's made a huge difference to people. The one problem in a studio, of course, with photography, is that you have to fire the lights in the studio. So you need to make sure that you can synchronise the flash, which goes off for a 10,000th of a second, to when you're taking the photo. So you've got to be able to somehow use the little trigger that fires the lights, which I haven't figured out how to do with a phone yet. No.
Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's right. So you've got people bringing in their own cameras. Some of them are, some of them are old school manual?
Some of them are, yeah.
Yep, all the way through to probably pretty flash digital ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting. So it's a lovely story, and it's really nice that because you've started to sort of get into photography yourself.
I have, yeah.
And you've sort of been opened up to this potentially like a whole new world, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely different to engineering. Yeah.
So how's that going? Do you find it like a really cool thing to be able to express yourself through? And
Yeah. I haven't really done a lot of personal creative things, but just trying things in the studio is just incredibly rewarding, I think. If you come up with an idea, to be able to build it and not really have any pressure, don't have to worry about the weather, to be able to set things up, take a photo, see how it looks, and modify things, and instantly you get the payoff. It's great. One of my friends, my flatmate actually, Sam, he graduated a science degree last year.
Yeah.
So we took him in his full regalia into the studio, and he got a Bachelor of Science. So we got a little chemistry set from Kmart.
Oh, cool.
And got him to do all these like little kid experiments and took photos of him. And he was breaking all the health and safety rules and all that sort of thing. So we got some really cool shots just playing around.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not a professionally trained photographer. But yeah, when you've got the tools and the space, you can just try all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah. I've got, like, as well as Pilgrim, we've got a business called Sammy Bags, and we've got these little products. So we've set up a little studio in our garage that I attempt to take photographs with.
Cool.
But I reckon it takes me about an hour per photograph to get to do all of that final messing around and setting up the wee scene and all this type of thing.
True.
And finally getting it and then going back to the house and looking at the photograph.
Yeah.
It's cool. But it's and it's amazing. The more effort you put in, the more you get out. Definitely,
That's true. Yeah.
So I still haven't learnt a huge amount about light, which is probably the biggest thing about photography.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Light is pretty crucial. This is a photograph of a black cat in a black room.
That's true. That's true.
I think I could achieve that. Hey, so let's go back to the membership structures and things.
Sure.
Uh-oh, Siri's switched on. Siri.
I didn't get that. Try again.
Oh, yeah. I must have said something. So you've got those... let's talk about the artist residencies, actually, because they tie in... So they're the ones that... so those artist residencies, do they match up with the underrepresented groups where the funding is
No, they're
provided?
mostly separate things.
Oh, they're separate.
Yeah. So there's sort of two sides to photosynthesis, and both are really trying to encourage people to be part of the arts. So one side is making it yourself. So having the studio space and equipment to go and make things. And the other side is about community. So the residency, they do fall over both. So the way that we run our residencies, first of all, we find a person either developing their work, so they could be an early sort of establishing photographer. So our first resident was like that, Jamie Price, who I think has just recently finished at ARA studying photography. Or they could be someone that's been doing their practice for a while. So we recently had Janeth Gill in, who did an incredible body of work with the families and some of the survivors from the March 15 attacks. So she's already quite well known in Christchurch, whereas Jamie was sort of emerging. And we have it so that they can come into the space and they can create their own body of work. So Janet has a chronic illness, for example, and she built a whole body of work projecting images of her body when she was really unwell onto a healthy model, and taking these incredible black and white sort of intimate portraits and using it as well to advocate for rare disorders and explain sort of what she went through. So we normally start it with an interview, which you can find on our YouTube channel. And then we normally launch it with the opening of an exhibition. So generally it's an existing body of work that the artist has made. And then during the residency they're building a body of work and people can come into the space and be part of them creating the work. And sometimes we host workshops during it as well. And then it normally ends with a final exhibition of the work that they've created, and sometimes artist talks and things like that. So our current resident, Stuart Kluke, works on 19th century printmaking techniques. So he's got a dark room out in Governor's Bay, and he just creates this incredible work.
I've seen them, and I watched some of the videos.
It's quite impressive.
It is.
Yeah.
So he's using some very original techniques from back in goodness, early. I don't know, 1900s, late 1800s possibly.
Some of them are.
So using metal, glass, different chemicals and different exposure kind of techniques and stuff.
That's right, yeah. So he's got a sunbed that he uses to create the UV exposures. Apparently it's got a little bit better control than just sitting outside on a sunny day, which is great.
Yeah.
I think he got it on Trade Me for $50.
Is he quite tanned himself?
I think he stays away from it. Maybe his arms get a little bit when he's playing around with that. So he took us out to his space for us to be able to film the video, and we created a carbon transfer print, platinum palladium print, and we went out to Lake Ellesmere as well, which is a place he's very passionate about going and seeing how he takes the images and sort of develops them through and gets these incredible, stunning prints. So he's going to be in the space trying something really new for him, which is essentially trying to capture things in colour using black and white film. So it sounds impossible when you first hear it. He's got coloured lenses that he can put on the camera.
Yes. Yeah.
And then by taking the three colours, he can make these trichrome prints. So he can print out in each of the colour layers, and black as well, I guess. And then it builds up and creates these incredible colour images. So we've already tried. One of the things we run regularly is we call it the open studio session. So on the last Thursday of every month, we open the studio up for everyone to just come and have a play, basically.
Yeah.
And we generally try and have like a purpose, one thing we're trying to achieve. And last year, one of the sessions was having a go at trying to do what Stuart's thinking of doing during the residency.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we got these cute little toy robots, and we set it up with all this lighting and got it looking just right. And I generally try and take a step back and just let people just play and learn how the studio works. And we set up the film camera, we set up the lenses, we took some exposures, and then we're like, was it any good? We'll have to wait and find out. And you'll be able to see on the little flyer that we've got, it didn't come out too bad. It was quite a cool picture. So he's going to be trying that out with some still life, and also thinking of doing it with some models as well. And so when you get a little bit of movement, obviously if you're building it up in layers, you're also building it up through time. So any movement you'll see as sort of a movement in the colour. So he's got some great ideas of what he's thinking of making, and the space is open while he's doing the residency to come and be part of it.
Because photography, one, it's just super amazing because it hasn't been around that long, but what it actually does is just miraculous and magical. Like capturing that kind of moment. And then the other thing is each individual, they bring so much to it, and it's almost as unique as every individual. And then you've got time thrown in there as well, that element. It's like these different dimensions which are just super fascinating. So cool. And that's how we met you, Kieran, is because you were popping up the poster in the cafe.
That's right, yeah.
So for our customers, they can come in and check out the poster in the window. Now, what else can we talk about here? I've got a little list of questions. So you talked about Janeth. Yep, she had that chronic illness. I've got a friend with a chronic illness as well, and it's just a roller coaster ride of emotions and stuff. And so quite often, tell us about that funding that you can get if you're doing a project that sort of involves an underrepresented group, or like you don't necessarily, the photographer themselves doesn't need to be from any particular group, but they might be depicting them.
That's right, or even involving them. So we are working with the Rata Foundation. So the Rata Foundation has given us some money to be able to cover some of our operations that would normally cover by renting the studio out. And so what we're going to do is, or what we are doing, is giving the space and the equipment out for free for groups that are working on projects that qualify, basically. So there's a few criteria. One of them is that it involves historically underrepresented groups that haven't normally appeared in Fine Art. So we've had really diverse groups approach us. So we've got the Linwood, I think it's the under 18 girls' league group.
Oh, cool.
Who are going to come in and
Yep.
create some work. One of the projects is looking at female DJs,
Yep.
which you don't often see. We've got one person, Heather Milne, who's getting school groups from different sides of Christchurch, from different economic backgrounds, bringing them into the studio, teaching them some basic photography, giving them some cameras and letting them go out and document their lives. And then that's going to develop into some little zine books, and they're going to be displayed in barbershops around the city. So,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. What age group, sorry?
high schoolers.
High schoolers.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
cool. I love it because a couple of reasons. One of them is because I love those little printed things. Like there used to be millions of them around the place.
Yeah.
And there was quite arty ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see them that often. When I actually bought this podcast gear from the Rock Shop, they had a few.
Right.
But and however, one of them, after I'd gone through it, I was like, wow, this is like a real grassroots kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But it had been produced quite flash. I realised once I got to the end, it was sponsored by something big.
Right.
But it was kind of still trying to give off that vibe. So it's
I get
nice
you.
to see that there's still some grassroots actual kind of little things.
Yeah. People are really passionate about it. We one of the regular things we also host is a photo book club. So
Yeah.
you bring along a little book at I think it's the first Wednesday of the month, and you basically just share it with the group, and we'll talk about it. And it's nothing too technical. It's just kind of enjoying photography together.
Yeah.
And people have brought in some incredible little books.
Yeah.
There's been some little handmade ones, maybe like a 10-copy run.
Wow.
And it's just these incredible, very intimate, the little zines.
Yeah.
And our next resident, actually, Irene Howe, who's a PhD student at Canterbury, she is really amazing at bookmaking. So the next sort of, maybe the second half of the year at Photosynthesis is going to be all about making books. So,
Cool.
So keep an eye out for that.
Wow. Yeah. So this ties into my next thing. I bought a book along, actually.
Oh, awesome.
And I'd like to give it to Photosynthesis if you would accept it.
Thank you.
It's a book with a bit of sentimentality sort of attached to it. I got it from it's a Canterbury Public Library, so it's just from the Christchurch Library from years ago. When I was a teenager, they were just selling off a whole bunch of books. They obviously didn't think it was very good.
Yeah.
I did though, so I bought it, and it's called Portraits and Dreams, and it's taken by Appalachian. If that's how you say that word, Milton, Appalachian.
Yeah, sure, man. Yep,
Yeah.
sure. I don't know what word you're reading, but
Yeah, ice cream. No, it's taken by Appalachian school children between the ages of 6 and 14.
Wow.
And this is the bit that these words I really like. Whose uncluttered perceptions. I like that
that's
word,
cool.
uncluttered
Yeah, nice.
perceptions. And I've been carrying it around with me since I was a teenager. And the children write in it as well.
That's
They
right.
write a wee essay and stuff. And I kind of fell in love with it, when I was a teenager, and I've carried it around. But I thought, now's the time to pass it on to perhaps some people that will appreciate it. So
That's
there we
awesome.
are.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. And just leave it on the bookshelf in the studio, and hopefully other people get inspired by it. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Because school kids, but I suppose maybe I was drawn to it because it wasn't super professional and it wasn't super polished.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
There's definitely something unique about that, and I think maybe that isn't. Maybe it's the economic barriers to telling those stories that stop people from doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got to have so much funding, and you've got to be able to get out and just to make a book is expensive, right?
Well, look, in this case, this woman who wrote the book and compiled it, I think she was only in her 20s, but she was a teacher, and she moved into this area, and she gave each of the children, I think it was just a disposable camera. So it's 1970s. It feels almost too early for disposable cameras, but they must have had them. She gave them all disposable cameras, and they all went out and they took photographs.
It's brilliant.
And then they kind of compiled it. So she was really reaching a a group of people that would never have had the opportunity to sort of record those things. And childhood is magical, and as is photography.
Yeah,
you know,
what a great marriage.
Yeah. I know my kids love taking photographs on the phone.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, social media started to play havoc with. Well, you know, I mean, it has its place, right? So you've got an Instagram account, Facebook account, and
We do.
you keep everybody up to date.
Yeah, we try our best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a pretty small team, and it's definitely something we're working on, but it's a team that's growing. So, yeah, we've recently got a graphic design volunteer who's helping us create a lot of the Instagram assets, and we've got some new photography volunteers who are hopefully going to help document the cool things that we're doing in the space a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot on, and we normally have to tell people in writing through our newsletter, but yeah, to be able to really show the cool things that are happening in the space to get more people involved is going to be awesome going forward.
Yeah. Right. Well, now one of the other things I'm just going to talk about photography books because, you know, that's what I remember. When I was a kid, there was a book called A Day in the Life of, and we used to get them out of the library, and they were just big, thick books, and they were taken just in one day, like a 24-hour period, all around the world, all these different countries, and photographers would all contribute to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was such a... it's kind of... It can be just so influential, looking at all images that you have not previously seen or been exposed to and stuff. Yeah. So, that was just one of my memories about photography and how it really kind of... I just remember that feeling of getting that big book and just slowly turning the pages.
That's brilliant.
And what's on the next page.
Yeah. There's something magical about a photo book. Even down to the materiality. What's it made out of? What's it printed on? And as you turn it, the next image comes out to you. It's quite an experience. Yeah. Milton's got a mate that does a bit of flash photography, Brilliant. Roger.
Yeah, Roger. He actually came into Photosynthesis and a couple of times.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think I know Roger.
Yeah, he said to say hi.
Oh, awesome. Cool. G'day back to Roger.
Hey, Roger. Yeah, he said he's going to watch this podcast. So.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, Rog.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it this far through, Roger. Good on you.
He experimented with flash photography.
Yeah. He's been working with flash photography, and he's kind of a technical dude, and he's really into it.
Yeah.
He finds it fascinating.
He often comes along to our open studio sessions.
Yep.
Last time we were playing with some new continuous lights that we got, some cool LED lights. You can change all the different colours.
Yeah, he's talking about that.
Yeah? Okay, great.
So they're just continuously lit. There's no flash.
Kind of like these ones
here. True.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can change the colour, the RGB continuous lights. And that's great for video making. But also you can kind of do what we're doing here and light up a scene. Yeah. We've got some new modifiers. You can shine some different shapes into the scene. We've got these huge long sticks. And what we were doing in the last Open Studio session, one of the great things is we hold it at night. So we were able to get it completely dark in the studio. And we'll be able to do that again soon. During the day, when we get some blinds installed, we just managed to get some funding for that.
Oh, cool.
So after next Thursday, everyone, you'll be able to make it fully dark in the studio. But anyway, getting sidetracked. At the open studio session, we made it so that we'd be exposing for 8 seconds with the digital cameras, and would have one light sort of to one side of the subject and another light to the other side, and then Roger was standing at the back with a big long tube which shone a different coloured light. So we'd turn on the blue light to start off with, have that on for a couple of seconds, and one of the photographers that came along to the session brought a samurai sword of all things, and so he stood there posing in one position. We'd turn that light off, he'd swing around, Roger would run across the background, and then would switch on a red light on the other side. During the exposure, you'd get these sort of two poses in the different colours, and you'd get colour through the shadows of the two poses, and sort of build up in layers over the 8 seconds and compile it all together. So you could probably do it in Photoshop afterwards, but this is all done in camera, live in the studio. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you have Photoshop available for people to use?
We're trying to make it accessible. We haven't had many people approach us about it,
no.
But yeah.
Once again, that's probably something that they would have.
That's right.
Yeah. They're probably going to have a camera, and they're probably going to have Photoshop.
That's true. Yeah. One of the things we're going for at the moment is to get some monitors.
Yeah.
So to get some really perfect colour accurate monitors, so people can come in and bring their, say, laptop in.
Yeah.
And plug in and have something that they can edit and know that the colours are right in the image.
Yes.
If they need Photoshop while they're doing that, we're happy to provide one of the licenses.
Ah, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's right. There are licenses and stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, true. I forgot all about that. That's cool. Yeah, the photography, one of the things is, you can, I like it how you can go in total no budget at all and do crazy experimentation with it and get really good results, but you can also think about it more carefully. And sometimes it's the restrictive nature of whatever those restrictions might be that kind of help shape your creativity and the end result.
Yeah.
Like this podcast, I often think about, we've just got a little tiny camera set up. It's just pointing in the most unflattering angle possibly. And we've just sort of done things. But now it's kind of part of it.
That's right, yeah.
And I think, it's kind of adds to it. It's just like, oh, well. And plus we do it at such a ridiculous time in the morning.
That's right,
So it's like fit in or... don't fit in at all.
That's true. Yeah. And maybe that's where the character is as well.
Yeah, that's right.
If you could do everything perfectly, then it's just this sort of sanitized thing.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's what obviously Stuart, is it Kluke?
Kluke, yeah.
Kluke. It's just so, it's just like, it's a texture and a depth that is, it's just remarkable. So cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting in that it's almost the opposite of common photography these days where you've got a digital camera and you're able to just snap away 100 photos.
Yeah.
To take this huge, large format film camera and sort of intimately set up a scene.
Yeah.
Put the slide in, get everything right, all the angles and everything that he does, and take one exposure on this big piece of film. It's incredible to slow down and create the image really consciously.
Yeah, because we're still attached to those, we're still attached to it so much so that we do have social media and Instagram and Facebook. It's all about kind of images, isn't it?
Just
scrolling through images, I guess, in a way that's kind of like turning the pages of a book, but it's got a different, it's not that it's disposable, but we seem to go through them very quickly, whereas back in the day...
Yeah.
I mean, I follow a few historic photograph, things on Facebook, and some of those first photographs that they were taking and stuff, they were just crack up. And I love seeing ones where there's Victorian families that are just couples that are actually laughing, and they're almost doing a selfie.
Yeah, that's cool, huh?
Yeah,
almost like modern photography techniques.
Yeah. And the other thing I like, sorry, I'm just going to keep ranting about what I love. There's a guy that I follow on, he's on Flickr, a guy called Stephen Trinder, and he is a local photographer, and he just goes around, he's got thousands of photographs online of mainly just cars on the side of the street.
Oh, cool.
But it captures a little bit of the context around it. Like it might be the house, the weatherboard house behind it, and the cabbage tree, and the letterbox falling off its hinges.
I love that.
And all of that kind of thing. But then in the centre, there's like a car, which is usually it's a little bit unique,
cool.
But sometimes it's just totally familiar. So I really rate his stuff. I'll pass that on to you as well, and maybe I'll put a link in the video because
great idea.
There's something there's something comforting, there's something nice about seeing your own city through someone else's eyes, right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have access to another perspective that you don't normally, right?
Yeah, because often I guess we're drawn to those travel photographs and wild and exotic places, but when we see Christchurch in a new light,
That's true.
it's just sort of very, there's something kind of
That's
nice.
why I like
about it.
watching reaction videos to movies.
Oh,
'Cause it's
right.
Yeah, I like that.
people reacting in a different way to me, and they just see different stuff, and
True.
yeah, it's real interesting.
It's the things you never notice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose they must be popular for a reason. I've never really watched too many of them, but so that's why they're popular?
Well,
Just
I don't know.
because-
That's why I like them, but
Yeah.
I got into them for a while. Yeah, it's cool, especially younger people watching older movies that I watched when I was young, and watching their
true.
reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah.
And they're coming from a different age.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of neat. Another thing I think is interesting is when somebody's working on taking a picture of a subject and they're working hard and it doesn't quite work out, but during the process they've taken a random picture of something else and that picture's like awesome.
Yeah.
I find that interesting.
That's very cool.
I suppose people, like anything, whether it's sport or whatever, there's that point where you relax.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you practice, that muscle kind of memory, and then there must come a time when you sort of just kind of relax into it, and something you're kind of operating on another level, on another plane.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it amazing how Federico? Is it Federico?
Federico. Yeah.
Federico was it was so therapeutic, and it brought him kind of healing.
Yeah, yeah. That it's almost miraculous that working on an art project can heal your mental health and physical health. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we have had quite a few people on here talking about the mind-body connection, we've been thinking about that a lot lately,
Yeah.
which is totally cool. Hey, so Kieran, tell us what's going to happen 2024. We're up to March. What's happening for the rest of the year at the studio?
So we're just about to launch into Stuart's residency. So that begins on, I guess, Easter Monday, so the 1st of April, at the Arts Centre in the Pūmanawa Gallery. We've got a body of his existing Aotearoa landscapes that he's created using his 19th century printmaking techniques. So that's going to be running for a week. And that Friday is when we start launching the in-studio days. So every Friday until about the middle of March, Stuart's in the studio or in his dark room in Governor's Bay, building this body of work, creating these trichrome prints.
Yeah.
Along with that, he's also doing 2 lots of workshops. So he's doing a workshop where you can bring along your own black and white film and learn how to develop it in the studio. And he's also teaching people how to make silver gelatin prints. So from that developed black and white film, how do you create these incredible silver gelatin prints using this old school technique?
Yeah.
So
those are 2 words that you don't hear often together.
That's true. That's true. You don't really get a silver gelatin cake.
Corrington.
Yeah, that's right. There's an idea for you. Those 2 workshops are going to be out in Stuart's darkroom, and the whole residency is being supported by Creative Communities through Creative New Zealand, which is distributed by the Christchurch City Council. So because of that, we're able to make it totally accessible for people. So people are able to come into the studio and help Stuart make the body of work.
Yep.
And we've already had quite a few people say that they're going to come along.
Yeah.
But also that we can push the price of the workshop right down. So, for example, the black and white session, it's 3 hours. It's $75, and we've also got sort of 50% off if you're unwaged or a student. So really trying to make it as affordable as we can. Yeah.
That's really nice. That's cool.
And that's materials and everything covered. So you don't have to pay for that on top of it.
Because you just really don't know what might happen. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Kieran. Thanks for coming in. Here's the breakfast menu. It's part of the deal.
Awesome.
There we go. Have a look at that.
Cheers.
It's got pretty steamed up in here.
It has today.
has.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like a jungle.
Sometimes I put it either we put the air conditioning on and we freeze, or we
Yeah.
sweat it out. So today I decided to sweat it out. Cool. You don't have to decide now.
Okay, sweet.
Hey, look, I'm looking forward to popping past the studio sometime. So, with the darkening of the blinds, are you
Yeah.
able to develop film, or
No,
will you
I
be
don't
able
think
to?
it'll be
Not
fully
quite.
dark.
No.
No.
But it's just
Enough
so you
to be able
can.
to control the light a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with continuous lights and
Yeah.
people making video. So
Yeah.
make a huge difference.
Oh,
Either
cool.
that or film at 5:30 in the morning, I guess.
Yeah, true. That was Alrighty. Yeah. Thanks, Kieran. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks, mate.
Sweet. Cheers.
guys.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.